We're going to take one of our newly imported images and we are going to develop it. We are going to put it into the develop module and alter it, change it, enhance it. Let's see what we can do. So we have these 6 images that we just imported. I'm going to choose one of them. This bench. Oop, lost my, okay. And we're going to take the picture of the bench and we are going to move it to the develop module. It's an okay photo. Contrast is, the exposure is pretty good. It's pretty contrasty. We can play around with that. Once we're in the develop module, you have all your editing choices here. You have your histogram, which tells you the level of dark areas, shadow areas, mid-range tones, highlights, and it shows you how bright or how saturated those areas are. We have some basic tools. We have a cropping tool, which allows us to, let's say, make this a square image. If I change it from original or as shot to 1 by 1, it becomes a square. 4 by 5, 8.5 by 11, 2 by 3, etc. You have lots of choices. If I unlock this, then I can go anywhere I want, and I'm going to just choose 1 by 1. I click and hold, click on my trackpad, move around with my finger. You can see I'm moving the image within that square frame. If I want that square frame larger, I make it larger and move my image around within that frame. Okay, when I like it, hit return, it's cropped. Now I also have a healing tool which I can use to clean up certain areas. There's a, basically if I wanted this area here to not have the leaves and just have the rock, I could highlight this little bit of leaf and grab the source from a rocky area like so, and now it looks a little bit like rock. We'll get into that more in further tutorials. I didn't do a very good job there. I'm going to undo that, Command Z, undo the spot removal. Okay, we're back to the leaf. I also have a couple other tools I can use here to increase, decrease contrast, make portions of the image darker or lighter. I'm not going to go into detail on those right now. Down here we have our color treatment. Basic color treatment is color or black and white. I'm going to leave it color for now. I can adjust the temperature, the color temperature, make it cooler, more blue, warmer, more yellow. I'm just going to set it right back to 0. Tint is red or green, and that has a lot to do with your light source. We'll just leave that at 0 also. You're working in fluorescent light. Fluorescent light is very green, so you're going to have to throw your tint red. If you're working with incandescent light, that's very orange, and you're going to want to work your tint down towards the green end. Here's where most of the work is going to come, your tone. Exposure, dark, light. Real easy. Contrast, high contrast, low contrast. You can see it doesn't affect, it affects the background, the shadow areas more than it affects the highlights, but it does affect the highlight. As we lower the contrast, you see a little bit more of the detail on the bench. This area here is a much more nuanced version of contrast. With the highlight slider, I can really bring up the brightest parts of this, or bring them down, increase the contrast, reduce the contrast. The shadows underneath the bench are pretty dark. I can lighten those shadows so that there's more detail, or I can just drop them right out. I'll increase them a little bit. I can make the whites hotter, kind of cool them down a little bit so there's more detail, and I can make the blacks darker or soften them up a little bit. And you can see when I make this adjustment, you can see how it affects the histogram, how it starts to reduce the amount of real dark area on the left and kind of push it up towards some of the lower mid-range tones. Presence is texture. You can overdo this really easily, so I would recommend not doing a whole lot through here. Vibrance is luminance, the brightness of the colors. Saturation is the richness of the colors. More green, less green, more white, less white, more yellow brown rock, less yellow brown rock. It's up to you. This is all pretty personal. Sharpening, I'll click on here to bring in the detail. If I bring up the sharpening, it accentuates the edges. If you go too far, it looks cartoonish. So I'm going to just sharpen it just a little bit. Different cameras have different ways of sharpening, excuse me. Fuji cameras tend to like sharpening in the 20 to 30 range, with the radius all the way, the radius of, excuse me, about 1. And the detail all the way up, and masking at about 10. Canon cameras have a little bit different philosophy about how to sharpen, but this gives you crispness without creating what's called an artifact, like little jaggedy boxes. Noise reduction we're not going to worry about right now. That affects you much more if you're doing low light photography. Post-crop vignetting. This is the area around the edges of the photograph. All right, remember the old-timey photos or portrait photos that fade out on the edge? That is a highlight vignette. What we are going to try, I'm going to have you try this, do a shadow vignette. If we go all the way down, you see it gives you almost like a telescope circle. So I'm going to back off just a little bit and give this just a touch of vignette. It darkens the area around the edges and throws the focus on the center. Grain is if you want to make this look more like a film photograph. If I zoom this in and create the grain, you can see it's soft, it's really harsh and sandy. We'll add a little bit of grain. And then the hue, saturation, and luminance sliders. If I want to increase the amount of yellow, let's say kind of highlight the rocks a little bit more, I can bring the yellow up. Green will make only the grass and the hosta leaves in this brighter, more saturated, not brighter, more saturated. If I go into luminance, this is what's going to make things really brighter, more vibrant. Tone curve we're not going to worry about. Color grading we're not going to worry about. You have some lens corrections down here that you can make. Lenses have certain optical aberrations, and you can come in and load a file for the lens you are using, and Lightroom will automatically calibrate to eliminate any optical aberrations. Not important right now. That's really probably about as far as we want to go. So if I'm done with this, I like this, great. Now if I want to try a different version of this, what I can do is come up to Photo, create a virtual copy, and you can see the shortcut is Command apostrophe. So let's try it. Command apostrophe. Did it work? I don't know. No. Okay, so let's try this. Let's try it again. Command. Photo. Create virtual copy. That worked. Okay. I'm not sure why the shortcut didn't work. So here's my virtual copy, and I can do other things with this. I'm going to go back all the way to the top here, and I'm going to turn this into a black and white image. That's pretty nice. And if I come all the way back down here where my color sliders are, you can see they are relabeled black and white. This photo is monochrome. We're only seeing tone. We're not seeing color. But the color still exists in the file. So we can alter that response. If I bring my green slider to the positive range, you will see the green appear brighter in the image. Wow, boy, howdy, look at that. If I take the slider all the way down, the green just looks like night. So I'm going to lighten it just a little bit. About half a stop. If I increase the yellow, brightens it. There's some yellow in the green of the grass. And there's some yellow in the rock, so I'll brighten that up. I can bring that up a little. Orange might affect the rocks a little. Yes, it does. Can increase contrast by bringing it down. Red doesn't really do anything. There really wasn't any red in the photo. Coolio. So now I've got two different versions. That's the Photoshop Develop menu. Easy peasy. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you.